What is going on, everybody? So I am back today because the Oscars was the other night, and I was actually out of town and I didn't watch the Oscars. And to be quite honest, I don't typically watch the Oscars because despite enjoying seeing some of my favorite actors or directors or people involved in a production winning awards, it's really hard to get past a lot of the really cringe-worthy moments of the Oscars. I feel like the hosts are normally really bad. A lot of the jokes they incorporate are really tasteless and oftentimes just miserable to get through. So normally when the award show comes around, I'll watch like acceptance speeches from the next day, or like if a performance like Ryan Gosling's performance of I'm Just Ken, I'll go on and watch it afterwards so I don't have to see all the filler in between. And I went on and looked over all the winners, and I thought today I would talk about some of the categories that I think are worth highlighting and discussing some of my opinions on these. Obviously, recently I did my rank list where I ranked all of the films nominated for Best Picture. So I think that video gives you a kind of an idea as to which films I wanted to see win these things. I'm going to talk about some of these awards and just give you my thoughts on them. So the first one I want to discuss is actually one of my favorite wins of the entire night, which was Best Sound for The Zone of Interest. Honestly, if there was an award that needed to be handed out, no contest, it was this one. The sound design in the Zone of Interest is some of the most impressive sound design in a movie in years. It's so pivotal to the execution of the overall film, and I think the way Jonathan Glazer and his sound team was able to craft this amazing soundscape that really immerses you in this nightmarish, horrifying world is so incredibly impressive, and I'm really glad that the Academy recognize the Zone of Interest for that, because there's so much intentionality in it, and it's just a really incredible film that moved me a lot, and the sound is really a big part of that. And I was also happy to see Zone of Interest take Best International Film. I was a little torn because Perfect Days was also nominated, which I absolutely adored, and those were my two front runners, so I'm happy one of them won because Perfect Days was also brilliant. I know a lot of people really enjoyed Society of the Snow. I really liked that movie a lot, but I don't think it holds a candle to either of those two films. And so I was happy to see it take away a couple awards for the night. Really happy to see Justine Triet get an award for Best Original Screenplay for Anatomy of a Fall. I loved Anatomy of a Fall. I think it's an incredibly original film. And although Past Lives was also nominated in this category, which was one of my favorite films of the year, I would have been fine with either one of those winning. And I think this is a film that really deserved recognition. It's absolutely incredible, really unique the way that the story is told. It's incredibly immersive for its runtime. And I was glad it got at least one award because it wasn't going to take away any of the major awards. I've seen a lot of back and forths about this online, and I find it really funny, but I was thrilled that Miyazaki's Boy and the Heron won Best Animated Film. I know a lot of people wanted Across the Spider-Verse to win, and I do think it's a really great movie, but it's a film that's sandwiched in the middle of a trilogy, and I think the originality of The Boy and the Heron and the message that it's trying to convey is much more powerful than the Spider-Man movie. And I love Spider-Man. He's one of my favorite superheroes. I enjoyed that movie quite a bit. I thought it was really immersive. The animation was brilliant. But The Boy and the Heron moved me to tears multiple times. It's just a wonderful story with perfect execution. And the fact that Miyazaki at 82 years old is crafting movies that are just this rich and beautiful and vibrant, it is incredible. And I'm so happy to see him take away an Academy Award because literally every other year it's a Disney movie, and so it was really cool to see a Studio Ghibli film win Best Animated Movie. Divine Joy Randolph winning Best Supporting Actress is one of my favorite wins of the entire night. As I said in my Oscar predictions video, her performance in The Holdovers was one of my favorite performances of the year, next to Emma Stone's performance in Poor Things, and she 100% deserved to win the Academy Award for this role. Her performance was so committed and beautiful and moving. She was one of the highlights of that film, and her acceptance speech was really incredible, and you can tell that she is just a truly humble human being who is thrilled to be performing and perfecting her craft. And it was amazing to see someone like her win this award for giving such an amazing performance. And The Holdovers is a wonderful movie, and I think more people need to see it. So I'm not going to go into detail with every single category, but obviously the two films that took majority of the awards away for the night were Poor Things and Oppenheimer. Poor Things was one of my favorite films of last year, and I was not not a fan of Oppenheimer. But I think as far as the categories they won in, it's really interesting. Production design and costume design both went to Poor Things, and I think rightfully so. The production design in Poor Things was incredible. I feel like the world was so uniquely different. The transportation vehicles, the costumes that they wore, the attention to detail, and the set design to make it feel like a very otherworldly trip was incredible. And it's some of Yorgos's most impressive work to date. And the teams that he had work on these movies put a lot of time and effort and energy into this film. And I'm so glad that it got recognition for that, because the artistry is just incredible. And obviously the other major award for Poor Things was Emma Stone taking away Best Actress. And honestly, I feel kind of bad for Emma Stone, because people are really targeting her and treating her really badly about winning this award over Lily Gladstone. And what I want to say is, I think Lily Gladstone's performance was really incredible. And I talked about Killers of the Flower Moon and just how amazing of a movie that was, and how important of a message that that movie was trying to convey. And I thought her performance was really fantastic. But what I will say, I do think Emma Stone's performance was better. I think she was transformative in a way that there were moments I forgot I was watching Emma Stone. She just completely turned into Bella Baxter, and the transformation and shift of her character from acting essentially like a toddler to growing this intellect over time, to where in the third act of the movie she is essentially a completely different person than she was in the first act of the film, really takes a special kind of actor to be able to do that role. And while Lily Gladstone had some very powerful moments in the film, I don't think her character was at the forefront enough for me to say, okay, she definitely deserves that award over Emma Stone. I 100% would have been fine if she would have won that award, but I think Emma Stone deserved it over her this year. It was just a remarkable performance. So now we get into Oppenheimer, which took a ton of awards away. As a lot of you know, I was not a fan of Oppenheimer. I think that it is a bloated 3-hour music video that is incredibly hollow with little to no character development. Cillian Murphy gave a really nice performance. It's really indicative that America is obsessed with films about the American military industrial complex, and really just love movies that are supposed to critique that complex, but also feel like they're glorifying them at the same time. Films like Top Gun Maverick, which I really cannot stand, that feel like propaganda machines for the American military. And like this type of a movie where you're not seeing any of the actual horrors and atrocities that were committed against these people. It's more just like, oh, the white guy feels bad that he did something awful. And so there's really not anything super powerful about this movie. I felt like it was really bland, and that there could have been a lot more work done with it. But apparently America absolutely loved it, which is no surprise with the amount of money Top Gun Maverick made, that something like this would also make that type of money. So like cinematography went to Oppenheimer. I thought Poor Things cinematography was much more intentional and beautiful. The shifts from color to black and white felt incredibly intentional. There was a lot of purpose in it. Where the cinematography in Nolan's films, the jump in aspect ratios is irritating. There doesn't really feel like much intentionality in those changes. The color to black and white really doesn't do a whole lot artistically. It's not really speaking volumes to why it's shifting. I wasn't really impressed with anything visually outside of that scene where they were in the auditorium, which I thought was a really powerful scene and probably one of the best scenes in the entire movie. But for the most part, I don't see why this would win over Poor Things, where it's kind of average cinematography wise. I wasn't really all that impressed with the presentation. Honestly, the cinematography in this feels very similar to a Michael Bay film, where it's jumping in aspect ratios, where it honestly just feels like the cinematographer has no idea what camera lens to choose. And that's really irritating to me. Best score, I know a lot of people really loved the score to this movie. I know they thought that it was amazing. I just felt like it was blaringly loud and obnoxious. Similarly to that, I think the Poor Things score was way better and accompanied the movie in a way that made a lot more sense. This was just like blaring orchestral music, which is all Christopher Nolan is known for. And so I wasn't really a big fan of that win either. Director going to Christopher Nolan, I honestly think the direction in every other movie in that category was better than his. I feel like the intent in those movies was better. I feel like the execution overall was better. But it was one of the biggest movies of the year, so I'm not really surprised that they handed him this award. If there is an award that was won from the Oppenheimer cast that I think was unjustly deserved, it's Robert Downey Jr.'s award for Best Supporting supporting actor. I felt like he was playing himself in a way that was not impressive whatsoever. I think Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things was amazing. I think Ryan Gosling and Barbie gave a better performance than Robert Downey Jr. did. Sterling K. Brown was okay. Robert De Niro's performance was all right. But honestly, I just don't see the appeal in Robert Downey Jr.'s character. Obviously, Cillian Murphy won Best Actor, and I can see why. If there's any appeal to this movie whatsoever, it's his performance. I feel like he really is committed. I love Cillian Murphy as an actor. I was really glad to see him win an Academy Award because I think he's incredibly talented, but I do not understand the Robert Downey Jr. win. I think it's really baffling that he won this award. I don't think it's deserved whatsoever. And obviously the film won Best Picture. As I said in my video talking about the Academy Awards and my predictions, this is the last film that I would have wanted to win Best Picture because I don't think that it's really all that special. In an era that we're living in where there's so many incredible films that are so unique and there's so much attention to detail, a run-of-the-mill biopic about the atomic bomb told through the lens of the person who created it that focuses more on the effects to the American population than the people who were actually impacted by the horrors and tragedies of this weapon being created. It's uninteresting to me. I don't really care about how Oppenheimer felt about creating the atomic bomb. He did it, and he completely and totally shifted the landscape of where our country is going and what is capable of our country and other countries now because of this weapon being created. I don't really find it all that interesting to spend 3 hours saying, should this thing ever been created? Because it is now. It exists. It's able to cause harm, and none of the characters in this movie are interesting. The exploration of the characters are not interesting. You don't learn anything about Oppenheimer other than you get shots of him reacting to situations about having to create this, him having an affair on his wife with Florence Pugh, and some of the most laughable sequences I've seen in a film in years. All the women in this movie are written so poorly, as per Christopher Nolan's usual. He has no idea how to write female characters. And there's just a lot of irritating things about this movie that I look at the history of film as a whole, and I look at all of the movies that are created that are considered milestones in filmmaking history. And this just doesn't come anywhere close. There's nothing here that feels super original or groundbreaking or like it's doing anything new. It feels like a lot of the formulaic biopics that have come previously. And it just upsets me that this movie took so many awards away. I honestly don't feel like it deserved any of them. I know a lot of people really liked this movie, but I think it is incredibly flawed. So what are your thoughts on the Oscars? Let me know in the comments. I just wanted to cover some of these awards, talk about my thoughts and opinions on what won, and I'm interested to hear what you think about the films that won. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.